Hey y'all, welcome back to this week's episode of AMA Friday with Amy Miller, Recruiting in Yoga Pants. So third installment, final installment in our little How You're Ruining Recruiters' Lives mini-series. So one of the benefits is I just banged all these videos out in one day, so go me. Take a break. But no, we are going to close out with this. This week we're going to talk about salary expectations. So in case you missed it, the last 2 weeks, we've done a bit of a deeper dive into 3 specific complaints that we hear from recruiters pretty regularly. I had a reaction myself to some of the posts that I've seen, so I decided to break it down. Week 1, 2 weeks ago, we talked about doing research on the company before you get on a recruiter call. So check that one out. I'll link to all of these up above for you as well. Last week, we covered how to deal with relocation, like should you commit to or whether or not saying, yes, I'll move for the right opportunity is good enough. So kind of tackled that one. And this week, we're going to close it out with the salary expectation questions. So check those videos out if you have not already seen them. And let's dig in, shall we? Alrighty. So it is not uncommon for a recruiter, and I feel like I hear this more from agency recruiters. This is anecdotal at best. I cannot back this up. I have no real data. But I feel like, generally speaking, agency recruiters kind of dig into this a little bit more. Not totally sure why. I have some suspicions. Maybe I'll talk about that. We'll see, time permits. But the idea is, here's the exact quote that was said on social media. Quote, I need to know your salary expectations, end quote. A recruiter said out loud with their whole chest, I need to know your salary expectations. No, you don't. You really don't. Let me tell you what you need to know. Recruiter school is in session. Here's what you need to know. Will you accept this amount of money for that job? That's what you need to know. Okay? So, I am of the very strong belief that a recruiter is responsible for driving this conversation because we own the role. That is my position that I am being paid to fill. I know what the job requires. I know what the job pays. Excuse me, I'm allergic to bullshit. I have the information to help you decide, does this conversation make sense? Should we interview? Should we move forward? Okay. I have that info as the recruiter. Why am I asking you for info when I'm the one with info to provide? So, it is not uncommon necessarily, but not the normal recruiter screen, right? We don't always talk to random people about random things. We normally have some intention behind those calls where, hey, I have this job I think might be a fit, or you applied or whatever, and we're going to talk about it. So when you're coming from that perspective, tell the job seeker what the job pays. This is I am forever mystified at recruiters who don't want to do this. I don't understand it. You have the job spec. You have the budget. You know the hiring manager's parameters, right? Or are you cosplaying as a recruiter? Just something to ponder. Okay. So here's the thing. A recruiter should be able to share this information. And through the course of the conversation, this is where it might go a different direction. And I respect this. This happens, okay? Through the course of the conversation, you might decide, this isn't actually the right fit. Now that I'm getting to know you a little bit, now that you're telling me about what you want to be when you grow up, or the role you're looking for next, or, contrasting your experience with the requirements of this job, this ain't it. Okay. However, as a recruiter in your industry, this is where like the agency part might come in, right? Or even larger corporations with multiple roles. I don't think this is the right role, but I'd love to talk about future roles. So this is where it's helpful for me as your recruiter to understand what your parameters are. If I were to call you next week with a job that fit perfectly, what does that look like, including compensation? Okay? Are we chasing a specific title? Are we chasing a specific scope of work? Do you have a minimum or a target number? Like, don't bother me if a role pays less than X. Like, this is now helpful data if we both agree that it makes sense to keep in touch and look at other roles. That, my friends, is the caveat. Are you asking me this information because you may genuinely have other positions in mind and want to maybe identify a better fit? Because that's a conversation I'll entertain. But if you're just asking to satisfy your own curiosity because you went to like crappy recruiter boot camp where they taught you poorly, maybe not so much. Maybe not so much. Something to think about. So I know I'm picking a little bit, okay? And I love recruiters and I love recruiting and I love my industry and I love my job. And that's why I care. I care about how we present ourselves to the job search community. I care about how we represent our businesses and our hiring teams. Like, whether we like it or not, we're the front line. We're the people that are setting the tone for the experience. And by having these immovable perspectives, like it is causing more harm than anything else. Like it is frustrating everybody on all sides. Like, the recruiter's now mad because the candidate doesn't want to give their expectations. Candidates are upset because we're giving all this information and nothing's coming out of it. Hiring teams are upset because why haven't you filled my role yet? Like, we don't have time. We don't have time for this silliness. Like, let's just get down to brass tacks. Let's get on with our lives. Okay. That's my thought from a recruiter point of view. For my candidates, I think, again, hinging on whether or not it makes sense to continue this conversation. Okay? I have salary FAQs I wrote years ago. I stand by them. I will link to them down below. So please go check it out. I've got compensation playlists where you can learn all about compensation, how companies make offers, the questions you can ask. I have so much content around compensation. I'm not going to repeat it all in the next 2 minutes. But please understand that I have created those resources for you, and you have every right to walk away from a conversation or the whisper of an opportunity that does not work for you. I think that is the main takeaway here. And if I could sum up the entire 3-part series here, if a recruiter is not giving you what you need, if you are not able to say, yeah, that actually makes sense, that's a role that I could get excited about, that's a company I'm interested in, that's a place I'll move, that's compensation I could accept. If those boxes are not checked, give yourself permission to walk away. I feel like, can I tell you a really weird story from my childhood? Okay. My mom sold Amway. Not well. Okay. But she got caught up in MLM scheme. And I was just a little kid, like probably grade school at the time. And I remember she was sitting, and she'd brought like my best friend's dad to this meeting and some other adults, like in our neighborhood or whatever. And they're sitting there with like the main Amway rep dude who was like trying to convince them all that they were going to be, gazillionaires and business owners or whatever. And my friend's dad was like kind of like, this isn't, not into it, whatever. And this man asked a question of my friend's dad. And he said, if I pointed across the street to 100 rocks. And I told you there's a $1 million under one of those rocks. Are you going to go turn them over? Are you going to go over there and pick up those rocks until you get that $1 million? And my friend's dad was like, oh my God, yeah, of course I would. And I get it, like the way the question was phrased, like who wouldn't, right? There's $1 million there. Of course I'm going to go pick up all these rocks. That's sometimes what job search feels like. We're scared to skip that rock. We think we have to go turn over every rock because somebody told us there's $1 million underneath one of them somewhere. But that's really not true. And it's actually a really unfair analogy that only serves to manipulate people into buying a bunch of Amway crap that they then cannot unload. I'm just saying, okay? The reality is there's a rock out there somewhere that has your money under it. But I can't guarantee you it's one of the 100 rocks across the street. I can't promise you it's a rock that I, as the recruiter, am responsible for placing. So yeah, you should turn over some rocks. We know your money is under a rock. But you absolutely have every right to determine where, when, and how you're turning them over. And they need to make sense. This little pebble clearly is not hiding $1 million. I'm going to skip past it. But that boulder over there might, ooh, yeah, let me actually go turn that one over because it fits the criteria that I know has to exist to actually have $1 million under it. Okay, that was a weird analogy. I feel like that went a little sideways. It made sense in my head before I said it out loud, but it's okay. We're going to run with it because that's what we do. My husband's giggling at me right now. He's like trying to sneak past, like I don't see him there. It was a good analogy. So anyway, I hope that helps y'all. So again, closing out this little series here, you are not ruining recruiters' lives. That was a silly little clickbait title I felt like using. I hope this helped. I hope this gave y'all some food for thought. I hope at least 1 or 2 recruiters watched and maybe, learned a little something or rethought their processes, or maybe you have feedback for me. Maybe I'm missing something big and I just don't know what I'm talking about. Definitely possible. Stranger things have happened. All right, y'all. Thank you as always for tuning in. Appreciate you coming back every week. I hope this gave you the questions to ask. That is the goal of the channel. Ask the right questions. And we will see you next week.